Welcome to The Trader, a Spotify Top 10 Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew, a writer working in unscripted TV development, and I am a 100% faithful fan of the TV phenomenon The Traitors. The Trader features deep dives into every episode of English-speaking versions of the show, as well as interviews with contestants. And this season of the podcast is dedicated to The Traitors Canada Season 2. Today we are recapping episode 8 of the season, and by we, I mean me and my co-host, David Bloomberg.
Hello. Yes. Hi. For anyone who doesn't know me, I don't know what you're doing jumping in at episode 8, but welcome. And, yes, I've been covering reality TV and print, online, podcasts, short videos, you name it, for over 24 years. Also on social media, such as Twitter, which is now moving to Blue Sky. And I
Yeah.
mention that in particular because lots of reality TV people, as well as others, are moving to Blue Sky. And at least one listener of the podcast has reached out to let me know they made an account over there because they heard it on this podcast. So
Ah.
I wanted to mention it again because usually we save that to the very end. And I know it's hard to believe, but not everyone listens to everything that happens at the very end. So yes, you can, join the reality TV crowd as we move to Blue Sky.
Yes, I have also deactivated the X account or Twitter account for the podcast. I have not transitioned to Blue Sky. I've just opted out altogether. But actually, that's funny. I was going to mention the same thing as you did. Quite a few people, I think, get towards the end of the podcast and they think, oh, they're just talking about social media. I can switch off.
Mm,
But sometimes David and I reveal incredibly insightful new information right at the end. I'm not kidding. So um, listen to the bitter end because you never know what we might reveal in those last
right.
moments. And David, I think both almost literally just finished watching the
Yes.
episode, so things are probably particularly clear in our minds. Before we get to that episode, we're going to play the Trader Traitor. This is our game of betrayal and deception, and our mission from here on in is to tell a lie to one another. The lie has to be a fabrication or a made up fact, big or small, about the show, about ourselves, about anything. For example, I could lie and tell David that Lauren was actually paid $1 million fee to appear on the Traitors Canada, regardless of whether she won or not. However, I couldn't lie by saying I think Lauren is very wise and insightful when it comes to the traitors. That would be a fake and insane opinion. So we're looking for fake facts, not outrageously fake thoughts and feelings. David, are you ready to play and betray?
I am. I am.
Hooray!
Well, spoiler alert about your feelings for Lauren there.
Just you wait. I feel you will feel the same things that I feel.
Oh, yes, I feel that too. Yeah. Speaking of spoiler alerts, by the way, one thing about being on Twitter less was I managed to avoid getting spoiled this time, even though, I had to wait a little longer than usual to find the show, this episode. And so I was very happy about that because well, we'll talk about it when we get there. I guess I
Yeah.
don't want to spoil it too much, but I think I would have enjoyed this episode less if I had been spoiled on it.
I sadly was spoiled. I fully, and I usually manage to avoid spoilers. Oh, by the way, our game has begun. Let's just say right now, our game has begun.
Oh,
So anything we say could be a lie now. But I think I already told you this
except
in a
you already
message.
told me that. So
Yeah. So this is the
unless
truth.
you were, yeah,
Unless I was lying before and I'm still lying. I foolishly opened the podcast Instagram account, and the first thing I saw was. And I mean, I can. If you're listening to this episode, you know who gets banished. I think
right,
I can say
right.
it. The first thing that came up on the feed was actually, I think it was the Traitors Canada or the CTV official page, and it was an image of Michael standing at the round table, and I just from that one still, I thought,
Yeah.
oh, he's giving his goodbye speech. He's been banished, so I kind of had it spoiled in this a split second.
I've
Uh,
I think we may have talked about this before, in terms of I still live tweet. I also live skeet, because that's what some people call it on
Oh.
Blue Sky. Survivor and some other shows.
Mm,
And I feel like if you're following me along and I'm live tweeting the whole way, then you know that it's coming. Otherwise, I mean, and once I've done that on Survivor, I pretty much, anything is fair game. And I use the hashtag to ensure, anyone who doesn't want to know, they can mute the hashtag till they want to know.
yeah, yeah.
Or you can be like my own sons and mute me when it's Big Brother. They just they just mute me completely on like Facebook and Instagram
Oh.
stories. But I'm not encouraging anyone else to do that, by the way. Um, if you're on social media after a show has aired, it is unfortunately fair game. I mean, I saw it. I remember I had to unfollow the Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Was it Instagram? I think it was Instagram or Facebook, because they spoiled something like right after it aired in England. I'm like, it hasn't even aired in the U.S. yet. Come on. And that's legal
Yeah.
streaming, not that anyone would ever do anything
No,
other than that.
of course not.
So yeah, this is a very long way of saying I see both sides of it. And so when I am sometimes spoiled, I get annoyed depending on how it happens. But I take whatever precautions I can. And like this time the little bit of time that I was on Twitter, I saw some because I follow the Traitors Canada on Twitter. I just scrolled very quickly past and I didn't see any spoilers, so I was very happy.
Yeah. Twitter was the place that spoiled things most for me, and I thought I had fled. I thought I was safe. But no, no, no. Even Instagram got me. Before we get
Wow, that was a
into
long tangent, wasn't it? I'm
it
sorry.
was. Before we get into episode 8, let's remind ourselves what our predictions were last time. For murder, I think you predicted that Gail would be
Yep.
murdered, and I predicted that Laurie would be murdered. And when it came to banishment, you predicted that Michael John would be banished. I
Yes.
predicted that the Faithfuls would continue their losing streak and would banish Cedric. Let's
Which,
find out what happened.
yeah, to be fair, was a good prediction on your
Well,
part.
exactly. We start the episode with a recap. We're reminded that half of the players have left the game, none of them being traitors, despite Kira actively trying to turn on Michael. Aaron was the most recent faithful to be wrongly banished, and there is tumult in the conclave. But Michael thinks things may be turning around. We'll see about that. It's time for breakfast. Kira and Nick arrive first, which seems clearly deliberate on the part of
Yeah.
producers. Get those two together. Let's give them some time to talk to one another when no one else is around. Uh, Kira is talking to Nick and saying the traitors are always the quiet ones. And I genuinely made a note here. I didn't do this retrospectively once I'd seen the end of the episode. My note to myself was, is she trying to move people onto Neda? And in fact, she actually kind of admits it here,
Right.
I think, briefly. Nick
Well, the thing
seems,
that I thought was funny was the people are talking about Nick being quiet.
well,
I'm like,
yeah,
so
yeah, she's
what are
not
you
doing him
saying
any
to him?
favors. Yeah,
I
uh,
mean, she's only talking to him right now, but still.
sure. Um, well, Nick seems to be picking up on the idea that his sister could be a traitor and that she's
Yeah,
feeding
I
him
think so too.
information, like, or he's at least questioning that that's a possibility.
Yeah.
And he's right. Michael John arrives next and says in his little interview that he says he knows Kira is blowing in Nick's ear. Obviously, he doesn't realize their connection. He just sees them
Yeah.
sitting together. Cedric arrives. He says that Michael John is his public enemy number one, and that Michael John is on his list. Do I need to keep saying Michael John? I'll just say Michael.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking of Cendric says that. I'm like, well, it's about damn time. He's not public enemy number one.
Yes, yes. Trana arrives to another round of applause. Not quite as much the round of applause she got
Yes.
last time, but still, they're very happy to see her. She's again surprised she's still around.
Yes. So
She,
let me just yeah, you knew that I was going to jump in here. You should have known. She says she can't believe she's still there. And I can't believe she hasn't figured out that she's still there because she's always wrong.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, at least last week she admitted, Canada, I know I'm an idiot. So
Yes,
she kind of, I think, realizes that she's got no idea what's going on. But yes, maybe she doesn't realize why she's not being murdered.
right.
Uh, I think I couldn't quite tell. She focuses on Cedric and says, um, it's just she doesn't say his actual names. It's difficult for a moment to see who she's
I
talking
thought she was
about.
talking about Aaron. I thought
Ah,
you're right because I noticed the same thing. There's no name given.
yeah.
And I'm
And
like,
just
well,
there's a
wait,
shot of Cedric, so like the camera sort of jumps to
right.
him. So,
I thought she was talking about Aaron and making excuses for banishing him
mm,
because he made the mistake of acknowledging to her that he was playing the game for himself, not the faithful as a whole.
yeah, yeah, it could be
I mean,
that. I hadn't thought of
maybe
that.
he was or she was talking about him, him being Aaron,
Yeah,
and they didn't want us to think that. They wanted us to think she was talking about
Cedric. Yeah,
Cedric.
yeah, maybe.
I don't, especially considering what happens, which I didn't think, obviously, I didn't know that when I wrote this
Mm,
note down. But to me, it just goes back to the conversation he had with her, Aaron had with her
yeah,
about last week, where he said, yes, I know I was doing this. I was staying close to a traitor and da 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 da. It, if they're trying to suggest that she's talking about Cedric, it's poor editing in my point of view.
yeah. It was there was something a bit clumsy going on there, I thought
Yeah.
as well. We get Neda in her interview saying that she wants to get to the end game with people who everyone mistrusts, which is a very good idea.
Mhm.
The door knocks. Gail is here, so that's sort of one person out of the running.
Wah,
Uh,
wah, wah.
yes. And that means that either Pac-Man or Laurie are going to be the person who's murdered. Nick says if Pac-Man doesn't walk in, he's walking out. And just then the door knocks again, and it's Laurie, meaning that you and I are both wrong again.
Yes.
And poor Pac-Man has been murdered. We get a flashback to the Conclave. Neda says that Pac-Man is basically universally seen as a faithful,
Mhm.
therefore he's never going to get banished. Might as well get rid of him. She also had mentioned Nick last time, but they couldn't murder Nick because he had a shield. So we see Pac-Man getting his letter. He realizes he should have been louder, he should have spoken up a bit more, he regrets it, and
Yeah,
he
but I I know he said that, but would it have mattered? Let's say that people had listened to him and they banished Michael. So what?
yeah,
So
they would
what?
have just murdered him anyway.
Yeah. It would have
Yeah.
only solidified probably that he was I mean, they already knew he was a faithful. So
Yeah, I guess what he maybe meant was not necessarily that it would have saved him. He just thinks, because he goes on to then say, I think we'll go down as in history as the worst faithful
oh
ever.
yeah.
I think maybe he just meant, I wish that wasn't the legacy I'm leaving behind. I wish we'd gotten a couple of traitors
Yeah.
before I got murdered, I guess. Maybe, maybe not. Back at breakfast, then, Lauren gives a speech about how they need to think critically and all biases need to go. And she praises Nick at the round table last night, I guess because he spoke up and gave evidence or whatever. And I just wonder, why would anyone listen to Lauren at this point?
Yes. Yes. I mean, you were kind in saying she gave a speech. I saw it as a lecture. Like she was talking down to them, like, listen here, you need to do this, and then really, Lauren is telling them to put aside their biases and think critically. I I mean, she was so embarrassed just 2 days ago that she was like, "Oh, I'm not going to take the lead this time." And you know, yeah,
Karine then arrives at breakfast to tell them that today at the mission, they will have to choose two players who are the best communicators. Everybody seems to quickly suggest Trana, and then Michael puts himself forward. And which is just funny alone and is immediately shot down by everyone. Lauren in her interview says the only reason he would volunteer is to be I think it's Lauren who says this, is that
Yes.
he wants to be a traitor spy. Which is just funny that she's invented a role.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, I mean, she was, I think she was one of the ones talking last week. I don't know. A couple of them were. I know Gail was one. Can't remember if Lauren was the other, even though I made a video on it. That was like, oh, they're purposely throwing
yeah,
missions and
yeah.
this and that. It's like a traitor spy. Now, would I understand it if they were like breaking in two groups, like 5 and 5, or I know they don't have that many left, however many, so they could keep an eye or an ear on what's going on. Sure. But this is two and everyone else.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
And the other person is probably going to be Trana, who they all
Yeah,
pretty much know as a faithful.
right. Yeah. Yeah. It was just absolutely hysterical that Michael thinks he's a good communicator. And,
Yeah.
it's like,
And everyone else just immediately was like, no, Michael.
yeah. I think if it were earlier in the season, people probably would have been like, well, we don't want to cause any waves. And, we don't want to do it.
Just let
And
him
this
do
time they're
that.
all just like
Like,
uniformly
no.
like, no, no, sorry, nope.
Yeah. I also I tried to think of names for the podcast episodes. So Traitor Spy may be the name of this episode. I have another
Ah,
couple of options as we go on of just funny things that people say. But yes, they all dismiss Michael and quickly apparently choose Lauren instead. That
mhm,
happens like in a second. They've
yeah,
chosen her, and then we move on. So around the manor, we see Laurie, and she's with Michael, Kira, and Lauren, and she says that she feels lost. Kira says they all need to work together now. Michael tries to defend himself by saying, he
oh
says,
no,
I'm just laughing at anything that Michael
yeah,
says. He's fun. He says, well, last night Pac-Man says he wasn't going to come after me anymore, even though I think he had voted for him. I think Pac-Man voted for Michael. He says, no,
yes,
no, no. After round table, though, he said he wasn't going to come after me.
right,
So I couldn't have I'm not the traitor. Like I couldn't have killed Pac-Man. Um,
yeah. That was, I mean, again, even his deflections are so obvious. It's like, first of all, yes, is he saying is what he's saying true? Yes, they showed us a flashback to it, but you don't say that. I mean, it's like, oh no, nope. He said he wasn't. Nope. He said he wasn't coming after me. So you have no reason to suspect me. Nope.
it's like Michael, no one was talking about you at this
Yeah.
moment. Akira then gets a bit upset. Maybe she may be faking it. She cries. Looks like she's crying because she didn't get to hug Pac-Man goodbye. And it's funny, there's then a little interview clip of Kira giving a further explanation of why they murdered Pac-Man. So it's funny they show us this now rather than maybe at breakfast when we had just found out that he'd been murdered. She says that he had been throwing Michael's name out, even if he later that night claimed to be moving on from Michael. And therefore, yes, she wanted to help frame Michael, basically. Like that is
Yeah.
exactly what she was doing.
Which I thought was good. And this is something we had talked about, I believe, I don't know, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, where when he at one point, it might have been more than that, when he at one point was like naming these people because they're coming after him, and she tried to like teach him, no, you don't want to do the ones that are coming after you because it'll be obvious. And I was like, let him do it,
Yeah.
Kira, let him do it. So she eventually heard me. It took a little while for my
Yes.
voice to go back in time, but she eventually heard me.
That's it. That's exactly what happened.
Yes.
Kevin says that he went to bed last night convinced Lauren was going to slit his throat in his sleep, and then goes on to, I'm so confused by Kevin this whole episode. He then goes on to say it's time to kill the queen bee, and he knows Lauren is the queen of the traitors. So many things don't make sense here.
Oh yeah.
As we've spoken about before, how the hell does he know she's the queen bee? I mean, well, he doesn't because she's not. B, there is no queen bee. There's no head of the traitors. They're all equal. And B or C, I should say. I'm thinking of bees. Why why is he still convinced it's her if he was also convinced that she would kill him last night? So he was convinced she was a traitor and she was going to kill him. He doesn't get killed, but he still thinks it's her anyway. I
Well,
can't
remember,
follow the logic.
for a while he thought that she was protecting him.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the other logic there is that, well, since she didn't kill me, she must still be protecting me. Um, but it's
But
time to
why?
make the
And if that's the case, why does he now want to target her? Why not just let her keep protecting him?
he must think that something is up that has changed in their relationship. I don't know. Um, I also I'd love to know how the stories got started because all of them seem to believe that there's this hierarchy among the
Yeah.
traitors.
Yeah. There's a
So it's
queen bee, a
clearly
head of the
something they've
snake,
right.
a
Yeah, it's clearly
puppeteer.
something they've talked about. And
Hmm.
I just wonder if it's because they have thought Michael John is a traitor for all this time, but just figured he was so obvious that he must not be in charge. So there must be someone in charge.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is it. And that's fine to have that theory, but to state it as fact so often is just hilarious, but so frustrating to watch.
Yes.
Trina does
To
it all the
state,
time as well.
yeah, to state it as fact time after time after time, vote or, vote to banish people time after time after time, have them declare themselves to be faithfuls time after time after time. You
Yeah,
might learn a lesson. Nope. Nope. Nope.
yeah, and still in episode 8 to be like, no, no, this time I know it.
Yeah.
You don't know
Yeah.
it.
Right.
He then talks to Trana alone, and it's another strange scene. There's a lot of scenes in this episode that I can't quite follow, or there's things that people say that I don't understand. He tells her he trusts her, he knows she's a faithful, so I guess that's right. And he says he's planning something tonight at Round Table, and he needs her to trust him. But as far as I can tell, he doesn't seem to say what his plan is. He just sort of says, I'm going to talk for a few minutes at Round Table tonight, and then I need you to back me up. But I'm not going to tell you what that is.
I mean,
I,
I understood it to mean he was going to bring up at the start of the round table that it's Lauren, because then there was also something from Trana saying it makes sense that Lauren is a traitor.
yeah, he does say that. Yeah, that's true. He just
So,
doesn't elaborate.
right. And making, spoiler alert, making the same mistake that so many others have made that we keep telling them not to make, which is, oh, I'm not going to say anything until, until the round table. And then I'm going to present it all then. It's like,
Yeah,
no, you need to get your ducks in a row ahead of time.
yeah, yeah. Because you're right. I do have the note that Trana says, "Oh yeah, it would make sense that Lauren's a traitor. I'm a number one. I'm still think maybe that okay." But yeah, Kevin doesn't say. Here are the three reasons I'm going to bring up, and
Mm-hmm.
he just sort of like, well, you trust me and I trust you, so just listen to what I say tonight, and then you pipe in as well. So
Mm-hmm.
Trina's kind of like, well, okay, I guess so, but I don't know what you're going to say. And it just all falls apart later on. Um, so they leave this conversation kind of hugging and patting each other on the back, like, yay, let's go to the end. We could split the prize
Yeah.
pot. They're suddenly best friends. Next, we see Gail, Nick, Lauren, and Neda. Lauren is talking about how ridiculous it was of Michael to volunteer himself at breakfast. A few people bring this up over the course of the episode. And Michael says, I haven't felt that rejected since my past five wives put me up for divorce.
Yes.
Again,
I
so
don't know if he
many, so
was
many.
I don't know if he was joking or not. I have no idea.
I feel like he's probably not joking. But it's so funny that if this is true that he had five wives, also that just the phrasing of put me up for divorce, like they put him up
Yes.
for eviction in Big Brother or something. It's just the funniest way of phrasing it. She's put me up for divorce again.
Yeah.
Every time. He says that he does some wrestling talk, what I think of as wrestling talk. I spoke about this last time. He
Mhm.
says he's going to get some shark repellent for the sharks surrounding him. So he likes to talk in these grandiose metaphors, and I mean they're very
Yes.
entertaining, but
Oh yeah.
no one actually talks like that, I don't think, in real life.
I mean, some people do.
I guess. It's time for the mission, so we get a little bit in the cars on the way there. Kira is talking about again, how weird Michael was at breakfast. And Trina tells Kira that she trusts her, even though she personally doesn't have much on Michael. She's like, well, I don't see what you all see. I don't know. I don't have any evidence to suggest he's a traitor. And I'm thinking, apart from his general behavior at all times, Laurie's in the back seat, and she's theorizing about the traitors having the whole game mapped out, including which faithful they're taking to the end. And Laurie's been DMing me on Instagram. She's listening to the pod, which is really cool because she's got like gajillions of followers. Although I do worry because traditionally fans of the podcast don't do that well on the show. Well, we're at episode 8 now, so she's not doing too bad, but it makes me worry that she's not going to make it to the end because of this. We'll see. Trina says that someone else has said this. So Laurie had said, yeah, the traitors have got this master plan. They know who they're taking to the end. And Trina says, yeah, Kevin said the same thing to me. It's just a fun. And then the scene end. Then we move straight to the mission. I just wonder if is there a reason they're including like these couple of little lines? It just sort of seems quite inconsequential. I don't know.
I mean, they were so inconsequential, I didn't write them in my notes. So,
Yeah, it was very brief.
yeah.
Um, I guess they just maybe it's just showing us they're all paranoid that the traitors, yeah, they have this grand master plan and there's a
Yeah.
head, queen bee, and all that stuff. So it's time for the mission. They arrive to a huge gangway overhanging a sort of quarry lake. They have to cross it one by one to unhook hanging bags of cash. Everyone has to make an attempt, apart from Lauren and Trana, because they are the communicators. That's who they chose at breakfast. And why do they need communicators? Because everyone else will be blindfolded. It's very like a UK season 1 mission that we had, really similar to this. David, I wondered if you enjoyed this Survivor-esque physical mission.
Yeah. I put it on double speed and, you know,
Okay, you
um,
enjoyed it as much as any other mission.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there were parts of it that were amusing as we get to the end.
Mm.
Um, where they trust Cedric to get the big money bag, while at the same time, Lauren, among others, are insisting that he is throwing missions.
Yeah.
You
Uh,
know, um, I nobody fell. They did a good job. It ate up a lot of time in the episode.
Yeah,
And
I've weirdly got quite a lot of notes on it, but that's just because I was writing down the order they went in and how much each
yeah,
person won, and
I did not get write down a lot of notes. I mean, my main note was that Netta made me laugh when she thanked Buddha, all the gods, Buddha, Allah, Jesus, and
oh,
Oprah.
Oprah.
Yeah.
Yep, I wrote it down too. I'll run through each contestant then. So Gail goes first. She doesn't like heights. She nearly falls, but she's fine. She gets 500. Laurie's next. She's very nervous. She manages 500 as well, makes it across. Nick loves heights. He does parkour. And I thought he's going to fall because he just said that, but
Yeah, I
no, he
know.
makes it across. Lauren coaches him to a $2,000 bag. But it's funny, there's some strange cuts. Sometimes they show us them get the bag and then they don't show us them make it all the way to the end. So Nick sort of
Yeah.
magically makes it to the end. I wondered if maybe that's in the extended edition of the episode, which we didn't watch this week.
Or
K-
they just know, okay, we don't need to show everybody making it to the
Yeah,
end,
I
which
guess.
is good because there's a show on now. Actually, you'll be getting it in the UK, I heard,
Ah,
called The Summit here in the US. And
okay.
apparently it was a New Zealand and maybe Australia show first. And it filmed in New Zealand. And it's 90 minutes. It could be 45. It's just
Okay.
every episode is, hey, we have to cross this bridge or this rope, or we have, whatever. And they show every single person doing it. And half of them are afraid of heights, and we hear from every single person. And it's like, oh God, you have to shorten this. So I will give credit to the Traders Canada for shortening it
Okay.
in that way.
Yeah, fair enough. We reach Kira, or no, I miss Kevin. Sorry, Kevin gets a 300. No, he tries to get a $300 bag. He misses. He gets a $1,500.
Thousand.
Kira's next.
Thousand.
Oh, what did I say?
You said 315. You said 300.
Oh, is
He
that
was trying to
wrong?
get the 3,000.
Oh, okay. That is not my lie. I just wrote the number down wrong.
Well, if it
Uh,
was, I just busted you. So
so
there.
it's not. Um, Kira's next, and Kareen reminds her that no one has fallen yet.
Oh yeah, this was when I thought. See, you thought that Nick was going to fall. This was when I thought Kira was going to fall when she
Yeah,
says no one has fallen yet. I'm like, oh, way to set her up.
yes, definitely. And I also had a thought here. I thought, would now that my mind went a bit sort of on a journey, okay, you just have to bear with me. I thought, wouldn't it be fascinating, or a fascinating reveal if, what if something really bad happened to either Kira or Nick? Like, what if one of them like really hurt themselves, or not
Yeah,
necessarily in this mission, but maybe just like during the course of filming, like one of them got really ill. The other would really have to battle not to get too upset or act like they care more than
right.
anyone else. Not, I'm not saying I'm wishing bad things upon them,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it would be quite interesting to watch. And it also reminds me of something that now I didn't watch it, but the Traitors Sweden is airing right now. And
Oh,
two people got in touch to tell me about something really interesting that's just happened on it. So, spoiler alert, if anyone is planning on watching Traitors Sweden, David, I assume you don't mind me spoiling this little thing for you.
I was gonna learn Swedish just for that, but I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Okay,
So
well, you can block me out for the next few seconds.
yeah.
So Matthew, who hosted a couple of episodes back with me, got in touch, and Declan sent an email about the same thing. In Traitor Sweden, I guess in the most recent episode, one of the traitors was caught out. This is very sort of tangentially connected to Kira and Nick. Was caught out because of the TV in their bedrooms at night. So when they're all stay in the castle or the hotel or the manor or wherever they are, they at night they get to watch TV.
Hmm.
And what happened in Traitor Sweden is that a traitor was caught out by saying they had watched a particular program on or a show on TV the night before, and a faithful had sort of lured them into this and tricked them and said, haha, that show wasn't on TV last night. And that kind of proved that actually that player hadn't been in the room. They'd been off at the Traitors Conclave all night deliberating. And then they all vote for that player and they banish them and they catch a traitor just by tricking them about the TV show that they watched.
Okay, is this your lie? Because this,
It could be my lie,
yeah,
or it could be true. Maybe Matthew and Declan are made up people and they didn't email me this at all.
very involved if it's your lie. So
Could be a very
uh,
elaborate lie.
yes. I think that's hilarious. That's like something out of a murder mystery TV show.
Yes,
Like,
it
oh,
is.
my alibi is I was at home. What, as a matter of fact, there literally was, well, not quite that. There was a British show, a British murder mystery show that I was just watching. I cannot remember the name of it. But it's about, but one of the aspects of it is a guy says, "Oh, I went to the theater that night. I was at the theater, and then it turns out the show had been canceled that night. So he clearly was not at the theater that night.
Yeah.
And now it's bugging me that I can't remember the name of the show because it's a British show. But anyway, uh,
Maybe that's your lie, and you think I'm lying, so you're making up a
that's
lie
right.
to go
Now,
to
now I need to
leapfrog on the back of my lie.
now I need to
Anyway.
scroll through my watched shows just so I can find it. I'm gonna like
Um,
10 minutes from now, I'm gonna scream out a name, and you're gonna be like,
yeah.
"What are you talking?"
Broadchurch.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But since we paused here, I do want to mention, um, I think you forgot, unless I zoned out for a minute. Michael is injured. He's not doing this.
Oh,
Uh,
this completely passed me by. I just didn't notice why I wasn't there.
yeah, she said he was injured,
Okay.
and I'm like, wait, did we know he was injured? How is he injured? What did he
Well,
do?
we know how he's injured. He got bitten by a shark because he's surrounded by sharks. And he didn't have his shark repellent.
Okay, that clearly must be it then.
So yeah, he warned us. So yes, Traitor Sweden, Kira and Nick, back to the task. Kira grabs a bag, makes it to the end, slips a little bit. Oh, she manages. She gets $1,000. Neda made me laugh. Yeah, she was very shaky. She didn't want to be the
Hmm.
one to fall. She says quite a few really funny things here, actually. She says, the bridge is shaky like all of my past relationships.
Yes, yes.
And when she makes it to the other side with her $1,000, she's happy to be alive so she can go home to her cat. I knew I liked Neda. And then
Moon
she,
Moonflower Murders.
oh, okay. Never heard of it. She,
Right.
yes, she goes on to thank Buddha and Allah and Jesus and Oprah, of course.
Yes.
Cedric's the final player to go. He's got 6 minutes left. It's funny, he says in his interview, if I fall, they're going to think I'm a traitor and I sabotaged it. And I thought, yeah, they probably will. Like, even though that's not real, that's not a thing.
Right.
They probably will
Right.
think that,
Oh, I'm sure
which
he's
is,
heard that. I'm sure he's heard them talking about it.
yeah. So Lauren asks if he wants to try and grab the $1,500 bag that he's at right now, or go ahead for the more difficult $3,000. Of course, he says he'll go for the 3,000 instead of
Hmm.
just saying, "All right, yeah, I'll just get the easy one."
Yeah.
So he makes it to the bag. He touches it. He hits it to give it some swing. He grabs it as it swings back. He's got it. He shuffles to the end right as Kareen screams the countdown at him. He makes it. Yay! We're all happy. $9,500 is raised from the mission. He loves Cedric now. Woo!
Hold
Uh,
on to that feeling, people.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't last long. They're temporarily in a good mood, and Nick says he hopes the round table goes like the mission today. Some foreshadowing, perhaps.
Hmm.
We're in the cars on the way back to the manor. We've got Cedric, Kevin, Laurie, and Cedric says to be a traitor, you have to be cold, and Michael has that quality about him. And Kevin's like, yeah, well, that's not really concrete evidence. And he's like, Cedric, you mentioned Lauren. Say more about Lauren, because obviously Kevin's after Lauren in it.
Right.
And Cedric says this sort of vague thing about her having two personalities, implying that she could be a great traitor because she could play everybody.
Hmm.
And he's like, I've been the same person from beginning to end. I couldn't possibly be a traitor. And that's pretty much the end of that
Yeah.
conversation. We're back to the manor for some discussions, and I thought, oh my goodness, there's no Jacob's Creek product placement. What's going on? Am I
Oh,
even
there
watching the
was.
right show? Yeah, it comes a little bit later.
Yeah.
So I was relieved, but at this moment, my mind just immediately looked for the close-ups of the Jacob's Creek.
Well, they also had to get the close-ups of the cars, the back of the name of the car brand on there, which I
Oh,
don't
of
even
course.
remember, so clearly didn't help.
It's at Nissan. Nissan
Ah,
seems to be the car this season.
yes.
In the house, Kevin tells Kira he thinks this is the night the traitors will get one of their own out. I don't know why he thinks that. He also says he thinks
Well,
it's
yeah. I'm like, no, they've been trying to do that for days now. People don't listen.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, I mean, the weird thing is he's right, but there's absolutely no way that he could
Right.
know that.
Right.
He just got lucky.
Yeah.
He says he thinks it's an embarrassment if they go for Cedric and miss this one. Basically, yeah, he wants everyone to go for Lauren.
Hmm.
Kira talks in her interview. She says she's not going to keep pushing for Michael because she thinks, eventually they're going to get him anyway. I've done my bit. Trana says that she wants to play the game for herself now, which is funny. We're starting to hear a few people use this
Well,
kind of line. I mean,
it's
it's a
even
bit too
funnier.
late.
It's even funnier because she just criticized Aaron or Cedric, depending
Yeah,
on who it was, for doing that this morning.
yeah,
So it's like I was rolling my eyes when she was criticizing someone for doing it. And now I'm rolling my eyes for having completely changed your opinion.
that's true.
Um, I mean, but she says she wants to go after Cedric because she's never gotten a gut feeling about Michael being a traitor.
Yeah.
So, but here's my question. The way these two things come right after each other. So she says she wants to play for herself. She wants to go for Cedric. Is she doing that because she knows Michael is a traitor and wants to go to the end with him and get rid
Mhm.
of him? Is she like, I don't know.
I think probably not.
I don't think so. I may be giving too much credit here. I think she's just continuing her usual path of wrongness.
Yeah, I think so too. Cedric talks to Michael and says he has nothing substantial on him, and he asks Michael who he suspects. And Michael throws out Nick's name, which seems strange at the time, but it
Hmm.
sort of takes on a bit of significance as we go on. And even Cedric notices how utterly random that is. It's time for sort of a new element to the show. Well, to this season anyway. Now it's time for some Jacob's Creek product placement. It's a banquet. They are invited to this banquet table outside, and Karine is there. She says patience isn't one of her virtues. She wants them to vote right now for who they think is the least trustworthy player. And it's a secret vote. And I wondered, and well, I think I know the answer, but I wondered if was this always part of the plan? Like, was episode 8 always supposed to have this moment? Or have the
I think so.
producers sort of intervened? Yeah, I sort of, I mean, I don't know why I
Because it
was
doesn't
asking
interfere. It
that.
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't interfere with the. Um, what am I trying to think of here? With it doesn't change who's banished, or
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
how many people are banished is what I'm
yeah.
trying to say.
I think when I wrote that note, maybe, I'm making the notes in real time as I'm watching the episode.
Hmm.
I think I didn't know what she was asking them to do. I thought she was um going to give someone the opportunity to leave right at this moment or something like that. Or
Yeah. Yeah.
but actually it's not quite as exciting as that. uh, the yeah, they do their votes, and then she announces that Cedric has the most votes, so most people see him as the least trustworthy. And we find out that Nick and Lauren voted for him. We don't see all the votes.
Hmm.
Cedric's frustrated. He says he says this really funny thing that the traitors are traiting on him. And I thought maybe that should be my episode title because that really made me laugh. Karine reveals the money from today's mission, and she offers Cedric all of it. So it's $9,500. She says, you can take it right now. Well, not right now, but she says you can choose to take it. Um, or you can leave it, add it to the prize pot, and if you do that, then I'll double it. And she'll only reveal his choice after the round table tonight. And everyone else then has to leave while Cedric makes his decision.
Yeah. Let me
I,
just say, go ahead if you have.
well, I was gonna, it's a bit of I just don't know what the point of it is.
I mean, they like giving these little moral games and stuff like that. Back in the mole, they used to do it too. Although in the mole, at least the one that I remember, um, it was one of the way older ones, not one of the Netflix ones. It was take this money and leave.
Mm, yeah,
Um, and whereas this is take this money and stay, but people are going to be pissed at you. But to me, there's still no decision here. You keep it. They all
yeah,
think or a majority of them think he's not trustworthy. People have thought that he's a traitor since day one. He is not going to win. There is no chance that he is going to make it to the end and people are going to say, oh, he's definitely a faithful. Let's keep him. No,
yeah,
they're going to banish him now or later. So, yeah, keep the money. Even Karine said, well, it doesn't bode well for you that you were voted this way. He said they're just not getting it. Even Lauren in confessional has already come up with a rationalization for why he would not take it to appear more trustworthy. So he doesn't even gain anything by not taking it because Lauren would just say, oh, well, he didn't take it to make us think that he's more trustworthy. It's like, no, you take the money and get ready to run.
yeah, definitely. I would do the same. So it's time for round table. We cut straight to everyone, walking in. We've got some little voiceovers. Lauren is saying, here's, right, I'm laughing already. Lauren says, I really feel like I played my best game. And she goes on to say, I'm really proud of us. And I thought, are we watching the same game? Like, you, how can you say that? I mean, I guess she's survived to episode 8, so I guess she's got that going for her. I think that's utterly by chance, though, that she's still there. Like,
Well, I don't know that it's by chance or by the fact that she's been so bad that they haven't felt the need to get rid of her.
well, yeah, and she, I think, is quite close to Kira, so Kira's like keeping her around deliberately.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And then she said Cedric is a traitor and Michael and Kevin could be. And it's like, yeah, same wrongness as usual,
yeah,
same level of wrongness as usual. I said last week, well, everybody always gets Michael as one third, so you can't even
well,
really count
exactly,
that.
yeah.
You know,
And of course, going into the roundtable as well, we just get a reminder that Kevin he wants to banish Lauren, so we know that's where
Mhm.
he's taking things. Karine, she tells them, she drops all the money on the table. She asks,
Yeah.
how much does it cost to trust someone? They've made $58,500 so far. The total possible for the season is 100,000. So yeah, she's amping them up. She's asking them if all their hard work has just been to line the pockets of the traitors. It's all very dramatic. And yes, like you just said a moment ago, Lauren begins by saying she thinks Cedric is a traitor and that Michael and Kevin could also be traitors. And that's all she wants to say for now. Cedric steps in and says, why would I want to sweeten the pot when you all voted me least trusted? I'm getting persecuted for being honest. Um, you, he, I think he says, you guys are voting off sinners, and there's a saint that took $5,000. And I
I
wondered if
thought
he
he
was getting
said
his,
I thought he said it the other way, but I could
well,
be wrong since we both just watched it. So
I'm pretty sure he says it the wrong way. He says it in a way that doesn't make sense. So because I'm sure I watched it back because I couldn't figure out why he was saying this, and I was trying to get his words right. Yeah, he says, you're voting off sinners, and there's a saint. But he means you're voting off saints, and there's a sinner here.
okay.
So I'm pretty sure he's getting sort of tongue-tied and
Mhm.
saying the wrong thing. Kevin steps in. Again, I find it really tough to follow Kevin.
Well, before Kevin, I do want to add that Cedric also brings up they trust Michael when he puts out names like Pac-Man and Nick,
mm, yeah,
which becomes important in a moment.
yeah. So Kevin says, I know Lauren is a traitor. And she just sort of smiles at this. And then he gives this speech. And again, I watched it like 5 times over to try and follow it and to try and write down what he's saying. I still don't get what he's saying. He says, today was the day. If you said my name, I was going to blow up our plan. He means I think their plan is that you and I have been working together and you and I suspect the other and we trust each other or something. We've got this like weird alliance, even though we both suspect one another of being traitors. Melinda never had my name in her mouth. And after breakfast, the day Melinda left, you came to me and you said, I think you're a traitor, Kevin, and Melinda's a traitor, and she's coming for you, and I think it's traitor on traitor. And I'm like, how does any of this prove Lauren is a traitor? What are you talking about? I don't get it. Do you get it?
Not really, but I haven't gotten a lot. I mean, Kevin says some insightful things, and then he mixes them with some completely bonkers things.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, at this point, I mean, my whole note was because I didn't want to, I couldn't make sense of it, was Kevin turns to his plan to go after Lauren. Lauren fires back. That was how I summarized the
yeah,
whole exchange.
yeah. I truly can't follow what he's on about. I mean, there may be some like really bad editing here, and maybe he said a lot more that would have made sense, but maybe he rambled on and they've just tried to really condense it, and actually
Yeah.
they've lost a lot of it. He keeps going actually. He says he slept with his fingers crossed last night. He does this like he sort of mimes him lying in bed with his fingers crossed and says, and I said, if you don't kill me tonight, I'm loaded. So I've just written, what WTF is he talking about?
He seems to think that he has this piece of evidence. It goes back to, like I said earlier, something happened where he thinks that he has this evidence. Apparently, it has to do with Melinda. Like that,
Yeah,
something happened where maybe Lauren claimed Melinda said him when he knew for sure Melinda had never said his name. I, I don't know. That was like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or something.
yeah,
Um, so whatever it is, we know they're all seeing things that aren't there.
yeah,
And this is just another example of it.
yeah. And Lauren yeah, like you said, she sort of defends herself and says, well, I did think you and Melinda were traitors. So, sorry.
Mhm.
And she says she thought she had trust with Kevin, and then she gets annoyed because he's not looking at her
Oh yeah,
when
that
she's
was like,
speaking.
yeah, that was a little ridiculous. I mean, this goes back to her lecturing people. Like, I don't remember what her job is, but she could be Lori's job. kindergarten teacher, you know, like
Yeah.
the way she's talking down to them and the way she's like, look at me when I'm talking to you. I looked at you. It's like, you're like, screw you, lady. Don't tell
Yeah.
me what to do.
Yeah, it's a bit much. It's a bit rude. She then does this thing, like this is where she just gets even more nuts because she starts going, banish me, just banish me then.
Oh,
And of
right.
course Cedric jumps on it and he's like,
Yeah.
yay, let's banish
Yeah.
her. um, and then Kira jumps in a way that felt very weird to me. But
Yes, it was
I
another weird editing cut.
yeah. And it's maybe it's just in the edit it looks weird. Maybe I kind of have a thought that I might get to later about why she jumps in here. She um yeah, I think she thought everyone was going to go for Michael and she didn't really have to do anything. And now she's watching all of this unfold. She's like, why are none of you talking about Michael? I think she just can't help herself. And she's like, well, fine, I'll just do it.
I don't think so because later she says something like, well, I didn't think we were getting Michael this week, but then his name came up, so I
Oh,
jumped
that's
in to
true.
help.
She does, yeah, yeah.
So I think, and this is why I mentioned that what Cedric said about Michael was important, because I think it goes back to Michael saying, or I'm sorry, to Cedric
Cedric, yeah.
saying, you know, what's going on with Michael talking about Pac-Man and Nick when Pac-Man and Nick were clearly, obviously faithfuls, and Pac-Man, you know, they know for sure because he was murdered.
Yeah, yeah.
So whether it was brought up again or whether she kind of put a pin in it and then came back to it once Kevin was done speaking.
Yeah.
Clearly, the editing could have been better on this
Hmm.
roundtable. I think they usually do a pretty good job. I think this roundtable was very choppy.
Yeah.
Um, it's also possible that there was a lot of talk about Michael and they just didn't want to show it because they wanted it to be more of a surprise.
Mm.
Because one thing I noticed, I was going to save this till the end, was all the other episodes recently have had a lot of talk of Michael and then he doesn't go. And then the episode where he does go, there's barely any talk of Michael. So was this them like setting us up for a surprise?
Yeah.
That, you know, so that, you know, maybe there was a lot of talk at the roundtable and they just didn't want to show it to us.
Yeah. And again, maybe the extended version of the episode featured a bit more round table.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe there was a little bit more context there. We're not sure. So what Kira says is, she asks them all, like, who thinks Nick is a traitor? And everyone's just like, no, no, of course not. He's a faithful. We all love Nick.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, so why was I hearing his name today by one person implying it's Michael? Like, why is Michael throwing out the name of, yeah, someone who's very obviously faithful? And Trana jumps in. She's like, no, I don't suspect Michael, but I mean, if everyone else wants to go for him, maybe I should, which she doesn't end up doing. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
even,
She's like, I'll do it even though I don't feel it in my heart. And my note was, okay, but how about using your head instead?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Kevin even makes one sort of last ditch attempt. He jumps in to come back to Lauren, going, I know she's a traitor.
yeah.
And then, oh, this is where, yeah, I said I was going to come back to this, that Trana says, well, this is the first time
Mhm.
I'm hearing it, and you're asking me to make a decision right now. And I thought, well, actually, I kind of agree with Trana. Yeah, Kevin,
Right.
you've left too much until now. Why didn't you just tell her this morning exactly what your thoughts were and all the reasons you think Lauren is a traitor?
Yeah, and you know, I
It's
mean,
weird.
she's talking about Cedric. You know, she has this pile of evidence on Cedric, and she's still wrong, obviously. But at least she has the right idea. I said it earlier. How many times do we have to say this? It's not like we've been saying it just this season. We've said it season after season of different shows. Don't wait until the roundtable to present your idea. You know, it's just you got to set it up. If you have evidence, share the evidence with people that you trust. Now, are people that, you know, are you going to be wrong a lot of the time? Yeah. But this whole surprise thing has not been working. It hasn't worked all season. It doesn't usually work on other seasons. It will occasionally work, very occasionally, not enough to make it a good plan.
Yeah.
And, you know, I do think it's funny that Trana tells Kevin he hasn't proven it beyond a reasonable doubt, as if they ever have any time so far. They've had a lot of false convictions in this roundtable courtroom.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, from the sounds of it, Traitors Sweden is what happened this week. That one of the players revealed their big surprise at the round table, saying, "You said you watched this TV show. Haha, it wasn't on TV last night. We got you," and it worked. But
I mean,
we've seen so many times. Actually, what ends up happening is a lot of the time when players bring up stuff really suddenly at round table, it makes them look incredibly suspicious. It makes
right.
them look quite sort of devious and scheming and too prepared.
Yes. Yeah, at least the TV thing, that I mean, they always talk about hard evidence, but their
Mm.
version of hard evidence is Aaron looked at the keys.
Yeah,
That's not hard evidence. Hard evidence is you said you watched a TV show that was not on.
yeah,
That is actual, truly hard evidence. So, yes, that I could see working.
yeah, exactly. So that's they have none of this, and Kevin has none of this. Um, they'd use this sort of courtroom metaphor.
Yeah.
Kevin says this is a courtroom, and Trina says yes, and you haven't proven anything beyond a
Yes.
reasonable doubt. And I have to go with who I have the biggest case on. I think that's what she says, and talking about Cedric,
Mm-hmm.
and which Cedric picks up on, and he says, "You vote me out. The traitors are going to win, Trina." And of course, Karine steps in right at this climactic moment to make them vote. Uh, so,
And Cedric tries to keep talking and she has to shut him down. She's like, no more talking.
yes, I'm laughing because right before the votes are revealed, we get another clip of Lauren.
Oh, God, yes.
And I know that you would have loved this bit.
Oh, yes.
She lists five terrible qualities of a player in this game. She says, I've
Mm-hmm.
played this game with integrity, respect, truth, trust, teamwork. And I think you're on a show called The Traitors. Why are you playing the game with integrity and truth and
Yes.
trust? Like, and she says she doesn't mind if her team send her home if because it'll help give them another clue. And I thought, I wish I didn't care about $100,000 this much. That she's just like, if I get sent
Yeah.
home, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
She has gotten completely sucked in to the story of being a faithful.
yeah,
She has, this is what's it called? The Stanford prison experiment or whatever, where the guards truly become, the people randomly assigned to become guards, and the
yeah,
prisoners
yeah,
become prisoners. She was assigned to be a faithful, and now she is faithful. It is all about teamwork.
yeah.
And she must do it for the team. And if she has to die for the team, then so be it.
Yeah, yeah. She talks about the team a lot in the episode, my team.
Yeah.
And sometimes when she said it, I thought, does she mean like a team from the mission? Then I think, oh no, she really means like she thinks all these people are her team in a
Mm-hmm.
sort of metaphorical, emotional way. So the votes come in. Trina begins. She votes for Cedric. Cedric votes for Michael, who replies, "Touche, brother." And Michael in return votes for Cedric, which is funny that he said touche and then just voted for him. Uh, Gail votes for Michael. Kevin, of course, votes for Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
And he only gets one more vote for Lauren from somebody else. So his plan has not worked at all. Neda votes for Michael.
Okay,
And
now let me just pause you here
yeah,
because this is another thing that makes me think there was a lot more discussion of Michael
uh,
because
yeah,
Netta till this point has not been willing to jump in with both feet.
yeah. I made the same note that as soon as she voted for Michael, I thought, I mean, I had kind of had it spoiled for me, but I was hoping that maybe I had
Yeah,
misread the image or something. I had got it wrong. But it made me think, oh, he's probably going because Neda has clearly read the room. Like if she knows it's time to vote for him, it must have been pretty obvious that a lot of the votes were going that way if she felt confident enough to do it. And then Nick
yeah,
does the same, votes for Michael, gives an apologetic speech because he really likes Michael. And he gives this is for Pac-Man. Very over the top. Like Pac-Man is not actually dead. And Laurie votes for Lauren, so she's the only other person that votes for Lauren along with Kevin.
Mhm.
Lauren votes for Michael, and does this speech thing. She says, "The difference is you're fighting for yourself, and I'm fighting for the team." And
Yeah.
Michael,
I,
like, the thing is, Michael knows at this point he's gone. He doesn't need to keep acting, but he keeps up the act to the
right.
bitter
I
end. He
thought the same
goes,
thing.
"This is almost laughable." And I thought, Michael, you don't need to do this now.
What's what's really laughable is Lauren's speech. Yes, yes, Lauren, that is the difference. He's trying to play smart and you are not.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
I thought the same thing about Michael, that it's like, I think, I mean, we have seen this before where people do, I'm sure they're encouraged by production. Keep it up until the big reveal.
yeah,
And I do think his pro wrestling background plays into that.
definitely.
He's gonna keep it going, even though he knows it's over. He's gonna keep it going for the show.
Yeah, yeah. Akira is the final vote, and
Mhm.
she votes for Michael as well. So it's pretty clear that Michael has the majority of votes. He's going to be banished. He stands up to give the weirdest speech I
Yes,
have ever heard a player give. He says, "How many murders have we committed right here? Just like the traitors. I imagine what it would have been like for everyone to die, bleeding, crying,
yes, yes.
begging for their lives. Like, Michael, they've not actually been killed. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is
I'm
just,
telling you, it's the pro wrestling thing again.
it is,
It's the
it's
showman,
nuts.
the
And I think
showman.
even the others are looking at him like, what are you talking about? So I really feel like he doesn't actually understand what kind of TV show this is. I don't think he gets that it's basically like a reality show as a competition. I think he thinks he's on like an improv, like soap opera. It's mad. And then I think he finishes, I can't hear him properly. He says, "Who am I? I'm a traitor." So
But
he got the last bit right.
he also
Um,
said something like, "Why am I here?"
yeah, yeah,
Or
something
something
like
like
that.
I feel like he looked at Kareen and said, "Why am I here? I'm here because I'm a traitor." Something
Yeah,
like
something like
that.
that. Yeah, it was very like I thought he was going to start reciting Hamlet or something. Who am I? Why am I here? To be or
To
not to
be or not
be
to
a
be.
traitor. I'm so
Okay, okay. I want to see that. The next Traitors show that films, wherever it is, you have to do that. You have to say, "To be or not to be a
a
traitor."
traitor. I mean, Alan Cumming could definitely deliver that
Yes,
line. He's done
yes.
lots of Macbeth. Um, so
I thought you weren't
everyone,
supposed to say the name of that show.
oh well, we're not in a theater. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
Uh, everyone, they go wild. They've finally done it. Kira's jumping all over the place. She's losing her mind. Kevin, we get a shot of him looking quite sort of humbled because it didn't go his way, but they've
Mhm.
actually got a traitor anyway. We see Michael in his interview. He's quite emotional. He says, "Thank you for the journey. Thank you for the entertainment, Michael. You were very memorable."
Yes.
Nick's in his interview saying he's glad he got their first traitor, but he's gutted it was his friend. And Kevin is still in his interview saying, "I know Lauren is the number one traitor. I just need to find someone to hear me," which made me laugh. And Kareen speaks to the players at the round table. They're still there. She says, "Is it already too late? Is this just a bump in the road for another traitor's victory?" And I assume she's referring to season one because a traitor won season one. So it was quite unusual for her to kind of refer back to previous season
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah. And one last thing before I say goodnight. Cedric, I offered you a choice, and she asked him to reveal what he chose. And of course, Cedric says, "I took the money. I'm not stupid.
Yes.
I don't trust these faithfuls. I'm not being an idiot." He says, "I worked hard for the money, and you let someone get away with $5,000. And he's it's just sort of celebrating to himself. Everyone looks
Yeah.
pretty mad. And I think, well, yeah, like you said it earlier. Of course, he's going to take the money. You're all out to
Yeah.
get him at some point. He's never going to survive to the end, or he's never going to win the show.
Hmm.
Of course, he's going to take this money. Don't you know? You can't be mad at him for that.
Oh, they will be.
I
I
mean, they will,
guarantee
yeah.
next week's episode is going to be filled with people being like, "We've got to get Cedric. He's selfish. He doesn't think for the team, and he's not trustworthy." And that was, he probably knew that he was going to get to keep the money because the Traitors probably knew ahead of time. And that's why he didn't throw this one like he threw all the other ones, which again, throw back to the mole because that would be the situation in the mole. And I really think some of these people don't know which game they're playing.
Yeah. And the idea of like a team reaching the end in all of the seasons of all the different franchises of
Mm-hmm.
the show I've watched, the most, the highest amount of people who've ever shared a prize at the end, as far as I remember, is three. So you don't get like a team of five and six all making it to the end and sharing the prize. Like that's not going to happen.
Where was there three?
This is if you people don't want to know this, skip ahead. Spoiler. UK season one, three faithful win.
Okay.
I don't think I've seen three in any other. I've seen two and I've seen one.
Yeah.
Usually that's the case.
Yeah.
So you don't get a big team win in the Traitors. You get one or two people winning it usually,
Right.
and the players, I think they're just like they don't get this that they're not going to make it as a big team to the end. And even if they do, they're probably going to start voting each other out and getting paranoid.
Exactly.
Um, so no matter how much integrity they and honesty and trust they think they have. Uh, yeah, they're all mad. Cedric says, "Look, I thought I was going tonight, so of course I took the money."
Mm-hmm.
They spread out to the house. They debrief. Kira's celebrating and talking about how no one had really listened to her before now, and she's kind of like, "Yeah, I said Michael a few weeks ago. None of you listened." We see Cedric just walking around with his bag of money.
Yes.
He says this funny thing. He says he can't believe he pulled it off. And I wasn't sure what he meant. Thought, did he mean he can't believe he pulled off not getting banished? Does he mean I can't believe I pulled off keeping it a secret from everyone? I didn't give it away what I had done.
I think that he
Uh,
didn't get banished because he seemed to say some other things saying he thought he was getting banished no matter what this week.
yeah. And is it the case then, if he had been banished, he would surely would have still won the money, right?
I would hope so. I was thinking about that because if Kareen had explained the rules in such a way that said that he would not get the money if he were banished, I think it would have been almost unanimous to banish him
Yeah. Yeah. I thought
just to
so.
avoid that risk. So I think he was getting the money no matter what.
Yeah. I just wondered if Cedric understood that. Just because he was saying, can't believe I
Right.
pulled it off. It was as if he was like, oh, I didn't get banished and so I got the money. But he had the money anyway.
I mean, I think it was that he got the votes, the secret votes, the majority that
Yeah.
people didn't trust him, and then the money thing came up, and he still survived. So I
Yeah.
think that's all he meant.
Yeah, I guess. And we don't see much else around the manor, actually. There's very little discussion. We go straight to the conclave. We've got Neda and Kira arriving and celebrating. Neda's so glad Kira spoke up again tonight.
Mhm.
They can't believe how long it took everyone to do the obvious. The players have been talking about Michael as an obvious suspect since like the first round table.
Yes,
Kira says, well, she says she had no intention of targeting Michael tonight until she heard
right.
that he'd brought up Nick as a suspect. And she says, that was just so nuts. That was so absurd. Like, I couldn't help it. I just had to go for him. I wonder if, I wondered if was she also kind of trying to protect Nick? But then I don't think anyone
Probably.
would listen to Michael,
Yeah,
so I don't know.
probably, but I think it was again. I think there was a lot more to it, and what Cedric said about Michael bringing up these names kind of snowballed
Yeah,
into like, why would you bring up the names of the people who everybody agrees is a clear faithful,
yeah,
including Pac-Man, who you brought up. He went after you, and then suddenly was murdered in the night. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
um, the more interesting thing I think that Kira says is just out of the blue, she says that she has no desire to recruit. So
Yeah, that's the
I
next
I
thing I've written.
I think they just cut the part where Kareen walks in, says you can
Yeah,
recruit or murder, and then I think they just cut it for time because right there, Kira already they already made up their mind, so there's really no decision point,
yeah, I
and it was
thought the
like, okay,
same.
boom, done.
Yeah, because leading up to it, I thought, oh, are they going to get offered a recruitment at this very
Yeah.
late stage?
I mean,
And
we've
yeah,
seen
then
it
it just
before.
cuts to Kira
Right.
saying, yeah, they're not going to do it.
Mhm.
Um, and Neda says, well, we should get rid of a really obvious faithful, and she
Yep.
suggests Nick, and
I'm like,
Kira's
oh,
practically like,
yeah. Yeah.
she's like, no, 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 Gail.
Yeah.
And Neda says the theory that there had been this theory going about that maybe Gail was a traitor and she targeted herself
Mhm.
in that mission, but that hasn't really caught on. Everyone pretty much just knows that she's a faithful.
Yeah,
And
we
so,
talked about that when it happened. I
yeah,
mean, it was given like half a minute of airtime on the show, and we are like, why did they even bother? I guess for this,
yeah,
so it could
yeah,
be given another 10 seconds of airtime. I don't know. But yeah, I did think that Kira had some good reasons for Gail.
yeah,
About how well, because Netta was like, well, Gail trusts us, and Kira's like, yes, but if she sticks around and people know that she's a faithful, they're going to think, well, who is she close to that's
yeah,
protecting her? And
exactly.
I'm like, oh, that's actually very sneaky, Kira.
Yes, definitely. And Neda brings up Trana and wonders,
Mhm.
she wonders if she's gullible. And Kira says, well, she's not very easily swayed. Even tonight, she wasn't going to vote for Michael. We don't want people who are difficult to sway. We want people who are quite pliable and malleable. Neda
And
comes back to Nick again. Sorry, you were going
yeah,
to say something about
well,
Trana.
on Trana, I didn't understand the argument here, and I think it's because there wasn't much of an argument. I think, spoiler alert for my prediction, it's Gale again. But I think they just had to throw two other people in there to make it
Yeah.
seem, because the argument for Trana makes zero sense. Yes, Trana is hard headed when she has an idea, but her
Hmm.
ideas are always wrong. So who cares if she had, it's easy. Even if she got one of their names in her mouth, they could easily be like, her record is literally 0 for 6 at this point.
I guess. I thought they meant, yeah, I just thought they meant if we somehow get her to the end. Well, the thing is, if they both got her to the end, they could then just get rid of her. But I thought
Right.
they meant we might get her to the end game and there are like 4 or 5 players left.
Mhm.
We need people that could
Ah,
vote out other faithful and we could convince them to
yeah.
vote with us
Okay.
and Trina won't do that. That's kind of how I was thinking of it. But yeah, Neda it comes back to Nick again, and Kira's like desperately trying to keep Nick in the
Yeah, we
game.
we need information,
Yeah, we need informations, of
and
course,
he
because we lose missions all the time.
yeah, and he won't speak up against us unless we have heat on us, and he said he only spoke against Michael John because I did first,
Yeah,
and it's like,
and Kira said something incredibly significant here. I don't know if you noticed this. She says we still have 2 more missions. So I
yes,
thought, oh, that means there only are 10 episodes, not
yeah,
12.
yeah,
So that piece of intel from a player was correct. There's only 10. Um, which I mean, I had in the past couple of weeks, I had resigned myself to thinking, all right, there's 12, we've still got a way to go.
hmm
But no, we're really, we'll have, a sort of normal episode next week with a
I,
banishment, I assume, and
yeah,
then finale.
and I'm kind of surprised that they know that they've laid out exactly how many
Mm,
there are.
yeah. And I'm trying to think of what to say and what to not say on the podcast right now. I'll say it to you off air.
Uh-oh.
I sort of have a theory about something that may have been spoiled for me. That I'm just sort of piecing together in my mind right now, but I won't say it.
Okay. All right.
Maybe at the end of the whole season, I'll come back to it and I'll explain what I was thinking. Oh,
Okay.
so anyway, maybe I won't say it to you either because I don't want to spoil things for you. So, yeah, Neda is. We get this little clip right at the end. Neda is noticing how easily Kira turned on Michael, and she said this in another episode before this as well. This
Yeah.
isn't really the first time. And she says if she can do it to him, she can do it to me. I think I need to get her out if I can.
Yeah.
And for the first time, do you think it's sort of like a bit out of place?
Yeah, I think it's out of place because how easily she's been trying to get him out for weeks now. So I think it was earlier, probably. And also, I don't know. I think it's an excuse more than anything. Like, we've seen Netta saying, "Oh, Kira turned on this person. Kira was upset about $5,000. Kira." I think Netta is looking for an excuse to
Mm,
turn on Kira
yeah,
and is justifying it in her own mind.
sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And for the first time, well, the episode, the credits roll, I
Mhm.
actually watched the little preview this time.
Okay.
Did you watch it?
Yes.
The little clips? It looks like, yeah, normally I just sort of stop and I kind of don't want to know what's coming next, but for some reason I just watched it. It very much looks like in the next episode, Kira and Nera are going to turn on one another at round table. It looks like
And
they were coming for one another.
and I think that's all bullshit. I think it's complete. I think it's all completely cut out of context. Like where Kira says
Mm,
at the end of the preview, like, and I think it's you. I think I'm willing to bet she's going to say that to someone else. It's
mm.
not going to be to Netta.
I'm
Um,
I'm gonna I'm going the opposite. I think it's
okay.
exactly what it looks like, and
Okay.
we're gonna have fireworks. And I wonder if the season is. I think last week I said I think the Traitors are going to win again,
Hmm.
and now I'm wondering maybe Kira and Ned are going to turn on one another so hard that everybody notices how weird it is, and actually the faithful finally get their act together and go, those two are coming at each other. This is weird. And also the way that Kira was so adamant about
Hmm.
Michael. I wonder if they're going to put things together and get the two traitors out in a weird turn. I don't know. I don't know.
I guess it's possible. It would certainly be one hell of a turn of events for a faithful to win.
Yes, after
Depending
all
on
this.
depending on which faithful it is, I would hope it's not. Sorry, Lauren, if you're listening, but I would hope it's not someone like Lauren who has just played so poorly, or Trana for that matter.
Mm,
I'm sure they're wonderful people in real life, but not in this game.
yeah.
Um, and uh, you know, one thing that I think Kira said that set Netta off, perhaps, was she said, and I mentioned this a few minutes ago. She said Nick said he wouldn't have even spoken up if I hadn't said anything.
Hmm.
It makes it sound like exactly what it is. She has Nick in her pocket.
Yeah.
And if she has Nick in her pocket, well, then Kira has, or Netta has to know, well, I can't let get to the end there because they can just turn on me and vote me out.
Yeah. Or even yeah. So I either revealed the that there's an alliance between the two of them,
Mm-hmm.
or Kira's also kind of given away that she's got some other connection with it. Like, why would
I don't
what?
know. I don't know that much. I don't think anyone
I
would
mean, I'm
jump
sure
to
Neda
that
wouldn't pick up on
conclusion.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's okay. You're admitting you have someone that close to you, which means it would be that much easier for you to
Yeah.
turn on me.
I mean, I would love it if in like the next episode or the final episode,
Hmm.
I think I said this in another episode already of the podcast, if like Nick reveals something to a player like about a
Oh yeah.
childhood memory, and then Kira
Yes.
says the exact same thing to someone else, and then they all piece things together and go, how come the two of you both said the exact same thing about
Right.
your childhood? Wait a minute.
Well, I was
uh,
wondering if her what was it called? The inner I can't remember the term, even though I lied about it last week. Um
oh, aphantasia,
Something
something.
like that. Yeah.
Yes.
I was wondering how that was working on the bridge for her.
Oh
It's like,
yeah.
well, you can't picture things in your mind, and yet you're walking on a bridge blindfolded. Like, what
Yes.
goes on in your mind in that moment? I don't know.
Aphantasia. I've checked my
Yes.
notes from last week. Aphantasia. Yeah, that's really funny. I hadn't thought of that.
I was surprised it didn't come up again. Like, oh, this is going to
Yeah.
be difficult for me, but instead, I think Nick said something like, oh, well, she's done stuff like this too. Yeah, but not blindfolded.
Yeah. I think you've already said it, but who do you predict will be murdered in the next episode?
I'm going to keep sticking with Gale till it happens.
I'm going with Gale too. I think this is the time. They can't keep her around forever.
No.
It's too obvious.
Yeah.
Okay. That's our predictions.
Well,
Any other final
banished. You
thoughts?
gotta you gotta do a
Oh,
prediction for
banished, of
banished.
course, yeah.
Um,
I, do you know what? I'm just going to go Cedric.
Me too. I think that there's going to be enough people mad at him, and there was already suspicion on him. So one way or another, they're going to go back to the you're either a traitor or a bad faithful.
Yeah, and I guess Cedric and Michael both voted for one another, so they could convince themselves, oh, you're
Right.
both traitors turning on one another. That's what was going on there.
Right.
So yeah, I think maybe poor Cedric. But you know what? He's got $9,500, so if he
Yeah.
goes, good for him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. The only other final thoughts I had was, like I said before, I thought it was interesting that they put less emphasis on Michael this episode in
yeah.
the episode that he was going rather
Mhm.
than, all the episodes leading up when they put a lot of emphasis. Um, and so, one other thing, Michael, if you're listening, you were very entertaining, but my God, you were not good at the game. he, any other group of faithfuls, except for Australia season two, would have voted him out so long ago,
Yeah, yeah,
just so long ago. But it was, hey, he was entertaining.
yeah. A great character. Uh, my final thought is Traitors Canada, if you would like to hire a new editor, I'm available.
Ah,
I don't know if there was such a great editing job this week.
no, yeah, that did seem a little bit off.
Before we tell everybody lots of things like where they can find us online and any secret things we may reveal in the last few moments of the podcast,
Dun,
I
dun,
think
dun,
it is
dun.
time for us to wrap up our game because we've
Yes.
been playing the Trade Our Traitor. David, I lied to you during this episode.
What? What? That was not very hold on, let me get to my notes. That was not very um
It was not
um
truthful or trustworthy
truthful.
or.
You did not play this game with integrity, respect, truth, trust, and teamwork. I'm very disappointed in
I'm
you.
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't take advice from Lauren, and I
Yeah.
played with deceit and deception and betrayal. Did you lie to me, or did you play with
Yeah, I did.
integrity?
No, I
Okay.
lied to you too.
Okay. I really struggling this week. I only wrote down a couple of brief notes. Uh, and they were both really early on, and then nothing else you said sparked any sort of suspicion in me. My two options are you said that your sons have muted you in social media, and you talked about unfollowing the Doctor Who page because sometimes it spoils things. I'm going for the that your sons have not muted you in social media. That's a
Oh,
lie. They
they
would
did.
never.
They absolutely did.
Oh no. How terrible of them. Outrageous. I
Yes.
can't imagine that.
Yes. I had to tell one of them when Big Brother was over. I was like, okay, I'm going to be posting about your wedding. You need to you need, you need to unmute me there.
Oh, well then I'm absolutely, and it wasn't the Doctor Who thing either, was it?
No, no.
No.
It
Okay.
was that, yeah, I was spoiled on this episode too. I did get spoiled on
Oh,
social media.
oh man. Oh, that was a good one. You knew as well. Oh, I'm so
That's
annoyed at
why when I
myself.
responded to you in your message when you said you were spoiled, I just said ugh. I didn't say anything either way because I didn't want to take care, make it outside the
Uh,
podcast. So
oh man.
yeah.
Well, that was very clever of you. Well done. Um,
Thank you. Thank you.
do you have any guesses of my lie?
Well, I know one thing that is not technically true, but I don't think it's your lie
Oh,
because you said that Lori has gazillions of followers.
I
And in
was
fact, she has 29,000. So
that
29,000 is not a gazillion. And therefore, that is your lie right there. Um,
I was merely exaggerating for comedic effect.
okay.
So that wasn't my lie.
Technical lie. Uh, um, I mean, I want to say the Lori thing because in the past you've talked about communicating with a someone on the season who wasn't doing very well but was still around and didn't give their name. And this time you gave a name. So either you got permission to use her name, or you're going to edit it out once we're done with this podcast, or that is your lie. Um, I didn't pick up on anything else. I'm going to go with that. I don't think you've been communicating with Lori.
I'm you're right. You've got me. I'm so
Yes.
annoyed. I really thought I'd gotten away with that one. Yes, that was my lie. I have not been DMing with Laurie. I mean, I think she maybe she liked or commented on something, but no, we've not been messaging. So that was, yeah, you got me. Well
All
done.
right. Yeah. See, if I hadn't told you before that Corrine had liked a couple of my tweets, then I could have told you that. You might have thought it was a lie, but in fact,
That's
she has.
she
So.
did, she did, yes. David, where can we find you being honest and having integrity online?
Ah, nowhere. No, I mean, oh, online, I always am. Yes. Of course, you could find me at Blue Sky. But other than that, you can find me all over social media and reality TV podcasting. I, of course, also podcast about U.S. Survivor on the Rob Has a Podcast network. The name of the show is Why Blank Lost. You can go to Rob Has a website, or you can go to WeKnowSurvivor.com. One way or another, you can find Why Blank Lost and subscribe to the Survivor feed and get that. Um, you can also find all my various accounts through my Linktree. That is at Linktree/David Bloomberg with a dot before the EE in the URL. I already mentioned I am more directly on Blue Sky as at David Bloomberg. I am still on Twitter, also as at David Bloomberg. I am posting some there, but many more conversations, much more interaction going on at Blue Sky. I'm also at Threads as at David Bloomberg TV. There has been some people move there. It's odd the way things are going, because like people who talk about reality TV and politics and other things like that have seen a boom on Blue Sky.
Yeah.
People who talk about medicine have seen a boom on Threads.
Mm,
So I don't know why, except Threads does suppress political discussion. So that's potentially one reason.
okay.
But anyway, I'm at David Bloomberg TV there because it's hooked directly to Instagram. And on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, I'm also at David Bloomberg TV, where I've been posting 2, 3, sometimes more reality TV short videos every day. This past week, I posted more Traitors Canada content than I think I have ever posted before. Most of them a variant of, oh my God, you guys are so bad. Um,
Or
so
Trana admitting that she's so bad.
yes, yes. Trana being like, don't DM me. And I said, I won't DM you, but I will make videos about you. Um, and so, yes, in addition to the Traitors Canada, obviously they're a mix of Survivor, the occasional thing of the Summit when they're not just one of them from the Summit. I thought you might go for that one.
I did
Um,
think about it and I didn't write it down.
but it was true, obviously. But one video that I posted was, it was funny because one guy who was afraid of heights was complaining and saying, all it is walk and do heights, walk and do heights. I'm so tired of it. I'm like, yes, so are we. Um, so I made a video of that. And not that many people liked it. I guess when you complain about a show, not that many people like it as
Hmm.
much. Although if you complain about Survivor and Big Brother, you'll get a lot of um and then House of Villains as well is another one that you know I'm posting occasionally about, but mostly it's Survivor and the Traders Canada.
Yeah. And again, before I tell you all about the great things you can do to support this podcast, I'm going to remind everyone about another podcast that I just appeared on. I was the special guest on the Things Gay People Like podcast to talk all about the stage musical Wicked, because it's one of my faves. And then I'll be reappearing on, I believe, the
Wait,
next.
they made the movie into a stage musical already?
Would you believe it? Already. The movie's
Wow.
not even out and they've adapted it into a stage show.
Oh, it's out in the US.
Oh, okay, okay. We have a few more days to wait here. in the UK. I have my tickets for opening night. And once I've seen the movie, I'll be back on the podcast, the Things Gay People Like podcast, to do a little update and talk about what we thought of the movie. Because the host of that podcast, Kevin, is a big fan too, and Kevin has been on this podcast. He's been on the
I,
Trader. He likes the Traitors.
if you don't like the movie, can you still go on the podcast?
No.
Okay.
I have to. No, I know I could go on and I could say horrible things about it. I can say whatever I want. I have a feeling I'm probably going to love it, but no, I think Kevin would let me be very honest. So yes, and we talked a little bit about the traitors on his podcast too. So it's on Instagram. He's at Gay People Pod. And it's called Things Gay People Like, wherever you listen to podcasts. To find the trader, well, to find the trader, you've already found the trader if you're listening to this. But it would be lovely if, I noticed that a couple of more people had left nice five-star ratings on Spotify. Thank you very much. And people are, every now and then I check iTunes and Apple Podcasts, and people leave really nice reviews. So that's great. Thank you so much. On YouTube, the subscriber numbers keep going up. We're now at 471. Again, my
Go,
goal
go,
is to
go,
get to
go.
500 by New Year. One of those new subscribers is Alice. Alice sent me an email to say that she's really enjoying the podcast, loves the show. Alice is also a Swiftie, and we had a little Taylor Swift chat. Any other Swifties out there? Send me a message. Happy to talk about Taylor Swift anytime. Maybe you can. There's a Taylor Swift song called "Getaway Car" that has the word "traitors" in it. I want to know if there's any other Taylor Swift songs with traitors in it that I'm missing that I can use in some videos I make online. Anyway, we are on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Trader Podcast. And you can get in touch by email as well if you want to talk about Taylor Swift or the Traitors. By emailing the Trader Podcast at gmail.com. And if you have been enjoying the season, you want to help keep the podcast going, there are various costs involved in that. So sometimes people like to send a little one-off donation at coffee.com. The full address is ko-fi.com/Matthew Keeley. And all of these things that David and I have just mentioned are linked in the episode description of the podcast. David, we will be back next time for what we now know for sure, pretty much, is the penultimate episode of Traitors Canada Season
Yes.
2. Very excited. Until then, keep us on your radar.
And stay traitorous.